may not have joined. All right, Vikas. Absolutely.
Thank you, Shani.
Take care. This time, I think anyone who got saved by Corona in all the previous 2 waves has been caught finally.
Absolutely. You're right.
I heard about you also, Vinay. Hope you're
Oh,
keeping
yeah.
fine.
Yeah. So far, so good. Yeah.
So far, so good. This time, nobody has been spared.
Don't jinx it, Shani.
Thanks.
What?
Don't jinx it. I'm
Okay.
in fact, yesterday we were talking. Everyone is getting at the end. We will feel like FOMO kind of thing.
Shani, can you
Yes.
see my screen?
Yes. Can you select everything from B to F, from B5 to F, and then show the formulas? Oh, cool stuff, huh? What is this specs going to do?
How do you make all this?
We'll teach you, don't worry.
Insert.
No, that's very interesting.
Icons. Only
Okay.
icon.
Nice.
Conditional formatting, home, conditional formatting.
1 minute. Let me.
See, because what I've put in conditional formatting is the exact same condition I put in Excel, VBA also.
Yes. I tried. Conditional.
Manage rules, right?
Manage. There is no new formula. Is equals to B5. Huh? B5.
B5 equal to minimum of $B,
Minimum.
5 to
And it should be fixed.
$F5. Right, and remove the dollar signs from the in front of the numbers. Correct.
Yes. Okay. I'm not removing from.
Yeah, because then it's only evaluating one row. It's not moving from row to row. You have to apply some format.
Okay. I'm not removing these dollar signs. So
I'll upload the solution, the VBA solution also. While you guys were working, I also worked on the solution. I'll post it so that you can go through the coding. All right.
Okay, Shani, can you tell that can we work on text to column
through the code?
Through the code?
Yeah.
Some function.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have given that exercise, right? Assignments on if and for. The first question, adding the 5 numbers. Okay, so I was stuck in that.
Okay, so let me do one thing. Not sure if you have the entire deck, so let me share the entire deck of questions from where you can practice along with the solution set.
Yeah, so that we can, refer to it if in case we stuck somewhere. Not keep it come asking you for small. Yeah.
No. I am going to write it because if I promise, I might not remember only. Hold on.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome. It's already Outlook integration is also there. What do we say?
And Ishani, please give us to like a homework.
Yeah, such exercises which you have given in the assignment. They are great, in fact.
I'll give one. I just created one new one for my other classes. I'll just show it to you today and I can put it up.
Yeah, you can send that also. Yesterday you have put the second question.
That I deleted. I deleted that. But I'll show it to you. I gave it to one other group. This will help you to understand the concept of, active cell and how to move the data. So 2 data sets, 2 new questions I created yesterday. I'll share one today and I'll share both of them today. And as and when you get time, you can, work on it. One is relatively faster. One should take a little bit more of your time. Not this one. VBA. And it's entirely up to you, right, to finish it. It's not a compulsory project to do. One is a visitor log that I wanted the team to create. What this visitor log should do is ideally you put in any, let's say, information over here. You put the name of, like, anybody who's visiting should put his purpose, name, and let's say a phone number. As soon as this is done, you should write a code by which if I press this button called register, this entire data should shift to a master sheet where all the information of all the visitors are included. Something like this. And the data should keep on getting added on one by one. So all the previous data is there, and whatever new registry, and when as soon as you register, the data from this sheet should move to the next sheet, and this should go blank once again.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So see if you can do this one. Plus, this is a bit complicated. I had not even written instructions for this. So what this is, like, for example, this is for your mortgage calculation sheet. So if you say, I want to borrow a certain amount of money and I want to borrow for certain months. So there are a lot of providers for a loan. There are about 29 providers they are there. And they have various products, like they could be a product of 2-year fixed, 2-year tracker, and the rate is given and what is their fees given. So like you see this calculation sheet over here for one of them, let's say Sainsbury 2-year fixed, this is the rate of interest, this is the arrangement fee. So like that, you can either create a program that once you give these inputs over here, automatically all the 29 sheets should be created with various options. Like Sainsbury 2-year fix, this is much, so that a person can evaluate which is the best suited for them. Or you can do it in such a way that you can give a drop down list over here and a person can pick the provider and person can pick the product. Once they pick these two, over here the numbers should evaluate and automatically the sheet should change. So either way,
By the coding?
By coding, yes.
We can develop a code.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why?
I hope it won't take forever.
This one, I said, this is time consuming, but the other one that I gave can be done relatively easier.
Yeah,
Oh.
that one easy.
Okay.
That's
bonus marks for who does it all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Ishani, also chart is fixed, or we can create also by coding?
You can create charts by coding, but if the area of the numbers from where the chart are getting created, it's not changing, then we can easily do it in Excel. Then we won't get into coding.
Okay.
Because as it is, charts pick from the value, right? If the value changes, charts automatically change. So we'll do that.
So we can make the chart once, and then whenever the value is changing, it will change automatically, right?
Yes, correct.
Is it possible by coding?
What?
Making chart?
Yes. If you want, tomorrow's session, we can keep around charts.
Yeah.
Not
Yes,
too much detail.
a little overview so that
A little overview,
we
I
can
told.
get an idea about it.
Absolutely. We'll do that. Okay. Today is going to be little theoretical session, so bear with me today. Not much of programming is left anymore, so might be a little boring today. We are going to talk about what are events, and then we will also talk about scope of sub, and we'll talk about calling of sub. This I use extensively, specifically when I'm working on longer projects. So I think it is important to know how to call a sub within another sub. So we'll do the scope of sub today, and then let's see how much time is left with this. Now, what are events? So if you remember, when we started this entire process of learning coding, we said there are 3 types of codes or 3 types of procedures that we create. One is sub. So we worked on the sub. Then we said there are there are functions. Yesterday we worked on the functions. And the third type is event. Does anybody remember what are events?
change event, double click event, like this.
So that is an example. But what is the role of an event, or how is it different from a sub and a function?
Sub is an program which we write.
Event
Right,
is also
Sam?
you have to write.
Okay.
Events also you'll have to work with.
Okay, they are triggered by some.
Absolutely correct.
Action.
So yes, so they are similar to subs. However, they run when triggered by actions in Excel. They have to be triggered by the actions in Excel for them to work. I think I would have given you this example if I have a sheet and if I want to go ahead and delete the sheet. Now, before it actually deletes the sheet, this box comes up. You remember this box? What is it called? Which box is this? Input or
Display
message?
alert.
Oh,
This is an
Is it
message
message
box.
box or
Message
input
box.
box?
Message box.
Message
Message
box.
box. It's a message box. And you know that we write code to get a message box, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
We have to write a
Of the
code.
coding.
We have to write the coding of VB message box result.
Yes.
So you know it won't come up by itself. Okay, so what happened is when I triggered this event of deleting, before it actually got deleted, a set of codes ran, and because as a result of that, this message box is showing up over here. Right? So this is event-based programming. That it runs by itself based on the actions that you're taking in Excel. So if you want to think about, like, in nutshell, if I say what are events, events are automation of your own codes. So when you write a sub, you still have to go and click on F5 or the run button and then you run a sub. But if I want a mechanism that I don't have to run the sub, depends on what is happening in my Excel sheet, I can predefine using events. When that event happens, the code should run. Again, to give you an example, like for one person, I had helped him to create this I'm in the wrong place, or not open. So for example, this guy, what he wanted was, he had this data set, it's a dummy data set, to say that, okay, let's say there is a column called company, followed by what is the state name, followed by the car name, car type, dealer name, and the price. So all this information is given to us. Now, if I'm looking for a specific combination of a company and a state, I would want only the information related to this combination to come up. Now think about it. How would you do it? Let's say if I wanted to find Audi cars in West Bengal, what is the process?
Filter out the Audi car.
You will filter,
Yeah.
right? You will put an auto filter on car type and state name, put Audi here, West Bengal here, and you will get the data. Now, if someone wants to change, wants to look at Hyundai in West Bengal, then what we have to do? Go back to the filter.
Yeah, same process.
Right? Same process. It's a manual process. So what this guy wanted is for easy filtering area for his end user. He said, okay, you know what? I don't want to do manual. I want to give drop down, which is easier for people to understand. And as and when you're picking an option in your drop down, the data should come at the bottom. So do you see me running any codes?
Oh, it's
working
triggering when-
automatically.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what is there? This is event.
The event. Okay.
Okay. What did we do? We did filtering only, but we placed it inside an event. And the type of event I chose was, if you look at the code, it's tiny. This is the code.
Okay.
It's change event.
What happened? It's just simple code which has auto filter in it. That's it. and the event I used was change. Now, what is change? How do you define change for these events? Change means if I add a value to a cell, if I go ahead and delete a value in a cell, or if I go ahead and change a value in the cell, everything is a change. Now, it's not that only these two cells are being considered for the change. Anytime I'm doing anything, change is happening. Why you can't see anything going on when I'm typing over here and I'm saying change is happening and the code is running? Because once the code run, it only affects the filtering part. Nothing else is affecting. However, let me do one thing. Let me add one more line over here. Now you see, I'm adding a value, change, right? I go ahead and delete a value. This is also a change. Or if I add a value and I go back and change the value, everything is defined as a change. So every time I'm making any change to any of the cell in this particular sheet, my code runs at the back end. Clear? So we say it's an automation of your codes.
It's for this sheet only, or what? I mean, in any sheet it is there. No?
No, it's only for this sheet. So I'll explain now what are the events, where do you write it, and so on and so forth. So events are actually not written in module. They are specific to
Worksheet.
worksheet and workbook.
Yeah.
So they can be only written in a worksheet or a workbook. So let's go back to our sheet 1 where we did the coding in the beginning. On the very top, you see general over here, right? And next to it, you see declaration. If you click on the right hand side drop down, what you get all the name of key functions, the codes that you've written. Instead of general, if you click on the drop down, you will also get an option of worksheet. So as soon as you click on the word worksheet, what it has given is actually by default the first event name, that is private sub worksheet, and this remains constant for all. So private sub worksheet will be common for all the events of worksheet, followed by underscore. Then after underscore, whichever word is there, that kind of indicates to you when the event will get triggered. So if I say for a worksheet, you have to keep in mind that we're talking about a worksheet. So for a worksheet, if I say the code will run when there is a selection change, what does it mean? What do you mean by changing selection in a sheet?
Select the cell.
The cell.
Different sheet.
Cell.
Select the different sheet.
Not sheet. Not different
A
sheet.
different cell.
A different cell. So you were in G6, you went and selected this. You changed your selection.
Correct.
Or I went and selected this. I've changed my selection. So this is your selection change. So anytime you are changing your selection, some command should run. Right? So just to demonstrate how it is going to run, I am just putting a small message box of hello. I go back. I'm in sheet 9. I'm changing my selection. Anything happening?
No.
No.
No. Where did I write the code?
Sheet. Another sheet.
Sheet 1.
Sheet 1.
Okay. Now if I'm changing my selection, is it running?
Yes.
Yes.
Now it's running. So I think Sanjeet, you asked me, where will it work? So these events that you write are specific to the worksheets that you have written, because we are saying your actions in Excel will trigger them. So actions where? Actions exactly where it is written. So where is this working? It is only working in sheet 1. If I do anything in any other sheet, this event is not going to get triggered.
Okay.
All right.
Where are you?
Module,
Okay.
then it should work on the every worksheet, right?
You can't
can't
have,
write.
you don't have facility of bringing them in modules. See,
Okay.
It's not there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It will only be available in sheets, and then we have for workbook. Yes, Sanjeet.
So when you're selecting worksheet, how does it, how would Phil find out which sheet is it?
No, when you double click and you're writing your codes, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So when you double click means you are in a particular sheet.
Okay. Yes. Okay. When you say that, that events happen when we only on the sheets which we are writing codes, right?
That
But
will be triggered by actions in that sheet.
okay. But if you're not writing the codes, still, if we click on an Excel sheet or we write something in the backend, still the codes run, right? That is how the calculations are done, or
Yeah. See, irrespective of, you can write codes anywhere. You can write a code in sheet. We did write a code in sheets. We write in module. But where it runs, it depends on that.
Yeah. I just want to understand that, that Excel also writes the code. That is how we record and then we run it, right? And here we are writing the codes for the events to happen.
Yes. See, Excel based events, whatever is programming done for Excel based event. In fact, the entire Excel you use, we are using it as an event based thing. We don't run any code. We don't call any codes. We are triggering through our work.
Yeah.
So if I'm selecting, I press Control C, I've triggered the range.copy. Right. If I right click and I click on the plus sign, I've triggered a code. What is it? Worksheets.add. So
Yes.
when we are the end user of the software, we are using it from the event from the point of view of events only. So we
Yes.
are only looking them as an event, not codes.
Yeah.
So that is what the end user of your work file will be looking at.
Okay.
Okay, he or she is not bothered what is happening as long as my work is getting done.
Right.
And this is not the only event. So if you go, once you've selected worksheet, if you click over here, these all events are there. So for example, there's an event called activate. It will do what? As soon as you activate the sheet in which you're writing, then the code runs. Then we have before delete. I've already taught you what before delete does. Before double click, before right click. So I'll tell you, I had to create we created, I think it was a Jetpack only. I think it was a Jetpack. So we had to create test papers. All right. And in the test paper, we wanted to make sure that nobody is able to copy the questions. So the test paper is there. You put in your answers and you submit. As soon as you submit, your answer and question should disappear, get hidden. Excel very hidden is what I applied over there. And I disabled all copy cut paste features. So how did I do it? I put an event over there that as soon as your workbook opens, before right click, I put all the disabled buttons. So everything from Control C to right click copy, any possible way that you could copy or cut was disabled through the usage of events. Okay, so events help you to kind of automate these kind of work.
Got it.
Then I used right click before right click, because when you right click, you get that option. And as soon as you right click, the code ran. And when it showed you the right click option, copy, nothing was there. So then we have calculate, change, deactivate. Deactivate meaning from sheet 1, if I go to sheet 2, I've deactivated sheet 1. So as soon as it deactivates, then the code will run. For things regarding pivot change, pivot table update. So whenever you are updating a pivot table, you can put things like refresh inside it or table update. As soon as the table is updated, then what you want the actions to be. So all these kind of things you can automate over here. Is it clear?
Yeah, now it's clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Another example, I'll give you a code to work on later to make sure that you know events. Then let's say this workbook. Now, what is going on in this workbook? Same thing. It's general. It shows you the codes present over here. And when you click on the drop down, when you click on the workbook, the first event has come up, which is open. When do you think program will get triggered?
Selecting a cell.
When the workbook opens.
Absolutely correct. As soon as you open the workbook.
Okay.
You open the workbook and you've enabled macros, whatever you've written over here starts to work.
Yes.
All right. Like it says. So when you open a workbook, this particular code will start to run.
Say it again, Ishani. Your voice.
So workbook
cracked.
open. Yeah. So workbook open, for example, I'm putting the small code of welcome. Right? Now, if I am doing anything in any of the worksheet, nothing will come as welcome because the code is not getting triggered. When will the code get triggered? As soon as you open the workbook. So right now I've closed the workbook. And I'm going to go ahead and open the workbook. And welcome came. Right? Because the event was to open the workbook. As soon as the open workbook works, whatever is the code written in it, that starts to run for us. Now, is it clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Now, my only request is when you work with events, some events have some arguments given in the bracket, some events do not have arguments in the bracket. So the first line is pretty much a keyword for event. If you make any changes in the first line, it is not going to act like a event. So my request is always that instead of trying to put it in the memory or trying to write it from somewhere, it's better you use this drop down. So if I wanted to use sheet change, so I click here, automatically the entire first line private sub workbook underscore and end sub comes. And now whatever you want to write as an automation part, you can write inside the 2 lines. But rather than writing yourself, click on the drop downs and pick it up. Then the syntax would be proper. Right? So what do we have over here? Let's see, activate a workbook, install an add-in in a workbook, uninstall an add-in in a workbook, after remote change, after save, like when you press save, then what happens? Before close, what happens? Before print, before save, all these are there. New charts, new sheet, that's there. Open, pivot table, and again, you will see that you get choices exactly how you had in a worksheet. In a worksheet, you had activate, before delete, before double click, before right click. That is repeating once again. So what is the difference? What I'm asking is, what is the difference between activate of worksheet event versus sheet activate of workbook event? What do you think is the difference? There is activate in worksheet and there is sheet activate in workbook. So what is the difference between the two?
Very confusing.
I think
Mostly we have done the second part, right? We have always activated the seed.
I
We
think
are not
first
in
one
any of
only
them.
activate the single sheet, and the second one will activate
So-
all the sheet of the workbook.
So no. First of all, events do not do these activities. They get triggered based on these activities. So it's not going to activate a sheet. It is going to run when a sheet is getting activated. Number one. Number two, you can't activate more than one sheet at a time. So what's the difference?
How can we activate 2 sheets?
You cannot. Not possible.
Yeah, we cannot.
sheet activate.
You said we can maximum activate 2 sheets.
One
Only.
only.
Only one.
Yeah, you can't activate more than one.
Activate.
So think about activate in case of worksheet event. Where do you write it? Where would you write this event? Where would you write this event? In a particular sheet?
No, in worksheet.
In a particular sheet. I said it's a worksheet
Yes.
event.
Workbook.
Since it's a worksheet
particular.
event, you will go to a particular sheet and write it,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
when will the code work? When that particular sheet gets activated,
Yes.
Okay.
right? So let's say if I wrote it in sheet 6, the code will only run when I activate sheet 6. Now let's say I want to write a code that it's not only when sheet 6 gets activated, if any of the worksheets get activated, then I want to run the same process. So is that a possibility with worksheet event?
No.
No. The only way I could do is if I copy the code and go to each sheet and start pasting it. But that's not worth it. So what this is a workbook scope. When I say it's a workbook event, the scope is a workbook. So sheet activate will run on what? Which sheet? Any sheet of that workbook.
Okay.
So whether you activate sheet 7 or you activate sheet 6 or you activate sheet 1, the same process is going to repeat.
Okay. If we write activate, then it will work only on the particular sheet.
We are not writing. Again, we
Okay.
are not writing. If I go to sheet 1 and over here, if I use the event of activate, this activate will only work for, let's say,
Sheet 1.
sheet 1.
And if we do that on workbook, it will work on all the sheets.
Okay. So when I go to Excel and I activate sheet 1, the code of sheet 1 ran. Why? Because this is specific to one particular worksheet. Now, if I go to any other worksheet, this works, nothing happens. Right? So if I go to this workbook and I create a new event of sheet activate, inside the sheet activate, let's say I want to put a message box and worksheets.
I think it's the above one.
What happened?
Above one.
Oh, I'm in sheet change. Thank you. Message box and the sheet dot name. Okay, let's see how this works. So I'm going to go to sheet 4. Sheet 4 got activated, so the code ran. If I go to sheet 1, this is the one where I activate the sheet, and this is the one where I've activated the sheet of a workbook. So now the workbook scope is working whenever I click on any of the worksheet of this workbook, but the other one is only going to run when we have when I activate sheet 1. So that's the major difference between the two. Is it clear?
Yes.
I'll write it also.
Okay. We need to go to this workbook for activating.
Workbook
Okay. The workbooks. Okay.
When we want to apply a process to all the worksheets of a workbook, we should use workbook events. Okay. Otherwise, if you want for a one specific sheet, use a worksheet event.
And workbook events are different from the worksheet events?
Yes. So workbook events are available in this workbook, and worksheets events are available in only sheets. Any of the sheet.
All right.
All right. Any questions around events? No.
So there is nothing for the module.
No, nothing for the module for a change.
Okay.
Otherwise, everything is set to be written in module only.
Okay.
All right.
So we haven't written anything on this workbook, right? Have we?
I have put multiple events. I've left the events.
Earlier.
It is activated worksheet event. Oh, earlier, no. I think a small code is only there, which I was showing you to understand how, where you are writing code, it affects how it is going to put in Excel or where it is going to put in Excel. So if you write a code of in a sheet versus this workbook versus module, where will you see the effect? So for that purpose, the small code was written, and that's still there. Other than that, over here, all events are there.
So the code written on this sheet, I mean this work
On this workbook,
will run on the all the sheets,
active
right?
work on active sheet.
On active sheet. Okay.
Yes, but when you talk about event,
But
event
it
will
will
be
run.
triggered by any action on any of the sheets.
Okay.
All right.
And if you here you can explain that new that was new worksheet. What was that?
What is new
workbook?
worksheet?
Yeah, new workbook or something was there.
New worksheet.
Worksheet. Yeah. What is that?
So what is new worksheet? It means that whenever you create a new worksheet in, let's say, new sheet, this one.
Okay. No, you have mentioned earlier in the start this workbook. Then there was some personal.
That is different. That is different.
Okay.
That is where in which workbook the code is getting stored. That is different than what we are doing now.
Okay. Okay, fine.
All right. Now, little bit boring stuff. Don't hate me for today's class. One is scope of sub. Now, what is the scope of sub? It could be either public or private. Have you seen me writing the word public or private at any point?
No.
No. So there has to be a default value. What is by default? What do you think?
Public.
It is public. By default, it is public. So now what is the difference between public and private? That I'll tell you using calling of the code concepts. So what do you mean by calling of a sub within another sub? It means that, let's say if I have a sub over here, sub tests, and I put dim x as integer, x is equal to 10, message box x. And then I have another program, test 1. And over here, I want to call or run this code over here. Whatever is given in test, I want to run the code in test 1. So how will I call a code? Calling of the code is very simple. You just write the name of the code and that's about it. So this is calling of the code or of the sub. Now, what could be the use case of it? I'll tell you what I use it for typically. When I work on any programs and they tend to be pretty long, it requires a lot of, breaking down into smaller chunks of logical thought process. And that smaller chunk is also not very small. Then this is the way I would typically all right. So this is the code behind it. So what I had to do in this particular program, I had to pick up a dump file. They used to call it a dump file, the raw data that got downloaded. There I had to delete certain codes. Then I had to open another file, import few things, add certain columns. Then again, do a lot of deletion of the things I don't want, insertion of the things, some formulas, calculations, cutting, pasting, a lot of pivot tables were there, and so on and so forth. So if you see, what I have done is throughout I have broken down my program into multiple smaller programs. Now, do you think if you were the client for whom I worked and I tell you, okay, I've broken it down into 7 pieces. Now, so first you press this button, then you press this button, then you press this button, and this should be ordered, then your program will run. Would you appreciate that?
No.
No, you might fire me. But if I create one single program and I create a shortcut or a button to run it, then it becomes easier. So what I did at the very end, I named my program as dump to contribution. This is what they used to call their report, in which I'm doing nothing. No code is there. And what all I'm doing is I'm calling the various subs I've written on the top in a particular sequence. So all I have to do is connect this sub to the front end with my client. And as and when he clicks on it, automatically all the 7-8 code starts to work one by one. So this is your calling of the sub. Questions? No? Now, a sub from one sheet to another sheet slash module slash this workbook cannot be called irrespective. It is public or private. Doesn't matter it's public or private. So if there is a code which is written in any of the sheet, I cannot call. I'll give you an example. Like over here, let's say we want to call a sheet of prime. Okay, there's a function called prime. I want to call it in module. So if I run this and I have to write the word prime, let's run F5. So ambiguous name detected, 1, 2, F5. So what it said, it did not mind the first one, but for the second one on the prime, it stalled and said sub or function not defined. Why sub or function not defined? Because prime exists in sheet 1. Even though it's a public sub, but it exists in sheet 1, and from any of the sheet, I cannot call a sub to another worksheet or to another module or this work. Similarly, over here, sorry guys, topic is only little. Without coding and writing English makes me sleepy. A sub from this workbook. Okay, remember this workbook? That's where we were looking at events. The sub from this workbook to another sheet, to a sheet or a module is again cannot be called if it's whether it's a private or a public. So the question could be then when can it be called? What's the purpose of private and public? The sub from one module to a sheet or another module or this workbook can be called if the sub is public. Now, I haven't had a instance where I had to play around with the scope of sub of making them private and public, at least in my line of work where I'm just manipulating data. There was no need that I would create something in a sub and make it private so that nobody could call it. I don't know if others have used this particular thing where they have created something as a private or a public, and any of the Gunjan, Vivek, Faisal, anyone else who has seen that? No.
So, Ishani, I would reiterate that public is we can call up sub anywhere, right?
Public sub written in a module can be called in any place. written in module, not
Alright.
written anywhere. Like if you
Okay.
write it in a sheet or you write it in this workbook, it won't work.
Okay, only in module, right?
In only in module.
Can
And
they
when it
different modules as well? Like module
As
1,
in?
module 2.
Yeah, you can have many modules, right?
Yeah.
And you can call the sub from one module to another module.
Okay.
so what's private?
Private does not allow you to call. That's private. So for example, this is my module 2 and this is my module 1. Let's say if I had a code over here. And I made it private. I go to module 2. Over here, I write the name of the module. Not the module, I write the name of the subtranspose underscore date. And if I run it, F5, it's got stuck here. Let's say if I remove this part and I run it once again. 1 second. Why is it stuck? And if I run it F5, again, you will see even this is not getting picked up, even though it's written in a module, but still it's not being called. Why? Because it's written in a module, but it's a private sub. Understood? Now, can I take your help, Gunjan, to explain a scenario which you have undergone where you have used this private and public?
Yes, Shoshani. In one of our reports, we have to work on 2 different reports, and the working of both kind of macro are different. So what we do, we capture the whole coding of the particular report, and we call that working in a specific on different report. That's why we are, rather than writing the whole down of scenario or the whole code of the workbook first into another, we just call it the first that sub of first workbook into the another.
Correct. Anything for private?
Anything for private? Since
Like has
private
in every
can't be used in between another workbook or module, I believe. I don't think so. As per my knowledge, I
Yeah,
haven't
that's
seen
what,
that.
public though I have, it makes sense to write
Yes.
things in module. Your programming is neat and clean. It's very well organized. If you break it into smaller pieces and you call, but private is something I've never used. Okay, there's not been any instance where I would make a sub in a module also private and then say, okay, now you can't call it. So honestly, not used. But other than that, yeah, public, you should know from where I can call my codes. That is very important. Another last piece of information is all the codes in one particular sheet are always public to each other. What I mean, like over here, I was calling the function of test. So it gave us true. Why is giving me true? Test. Oh, this is test 1. Okay, so if I put test 1 and I run it, it is giving me value of 10. Now, if I go ahead and make it private, what will happen? Now, what will happen when I
be able to call it here.
I will be able to call it.
Okay.
Why I will be able to call it? Because irrespective it's a private or a public sub, all the codes that are present in one particular sheet, this is one sheet. If there are n number of
they're
codes
always
in one
public to
sheet,
each
they're
other.
always public to each other, irrespective of the basic definition.
But however, if it is written in the other module, we won't be able to do it because it's private.
If it's written on another, yes, correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct. All right, any questions?
No, Shani. Sounds good.
No, Shani,
All
I
good?
think I got it. I was mixing it with events.
Events. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is all good. All right. Next is form controls. All right. It's almost 4 o'clock. I'll just upload one small assignment and I'll explain it to you over here before I upload it. If you could try it whenever you get a chance. So for example, let's say we have this data over here, right? I want you to create a program such that wherever I click in the table, for example, if I clicked over here in this table, what it should do is highlight that particular row and similarly highlight a particular column. So as in when the person changes the active cell position, if I'm here, now this row and column should be active. If I click on here, this column and this particular row and this particular column should be highlighted. So as in when you're clicking on a different cell, different active cell, accordingly, this coloring should get removed from the previous cell and put on the new cell. So which kind of code would you write?
Ishani, could you repeat the last line, what you have said?
Yes. So right now, let's say if I clicked on sunshine, this is the output. But if I click on 4593, then this column of 4593 should be colored and this row should be colored. And the previous colors should go away.
Okay. Then we use change event.
Then you use
Change event.
Change.
If you are clicking somewhere.
Selection change.
Yes, selection change.
Yes, you will use an event of selection change and do this program.
Okay.
You will have to do with the concept of active cell. Why? Because we would not know whether user is going to click next. So whichever person selected, that becomes my active cell. And from there, I have to do the coding.
Okay. So Ishani, we need to select selection cell and then write the code in between, right?
Say that again.
We from the drop down.
Do
we have to select selection cell and then?
Oh, you're talking about the range.
How we will write the code on it for the event. That's what I can get.
So whatever, see, think about it. The way I do it is I don't start off with an event. I will start off with one particular thing, the process. So I would first figure out that if I have an active cell, for that active cell, how do I highlight the entire row and how do I highlight the entire column for one active cell? So think about the logic, think about what is the process and create it. Now, once this is working, you know, where you're clicking, the colors are coming. If it's working, then it's fine. Else, no, sorry. What am I saying?
Once it start working, this code, then we can.
Yeah. So when you're clicking somewhere, you can see the row and column coloring, right?
Yeah.
Now you want to make sure that it works in a way that if I change the location, I don't have to run my code again. So once that basic process of the code is ready, all you have to do is write an event around it. And how do you write an event? You click on the drop dot, that event list comes. That's it.
Okay.
So write for one instance and then put a event around it. Everyone, this form is important to us. Oh, it was not there in the WhatsApp group. All right. So probably we'll request Vinay. Please share this feedback in the WhatsApp group. Yesterday, only I think 4 people had given the feedback.
Yeah,
I think I did share it yesterday as well.
Okay.
In the WhatsApp, it wasn't there.
All right.
Yesterday we did not receive on WhatsApp. Else we always fill.
Yeah.
All right. That's okay. I know you are okay with the training still, but as a part of a process, let's just record the feedback. Okay, so this is done and that's about it. Now, what we want to cover is the things that I've written. We want to work on the charts. we are going to work on Outlook integration. We are going to work on form control. All of the 3 topics will take one class. So next 3 classes, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Each day we will be doing one of the topics. Okay. And the practice, put the answer. Yes, I'll put the answer. So what I'm going to put on the LMS today is a solution for assessment 3. I will put the 2 case study that I spoke about today. If anybody wants to work on it as a side project, then you can do it. The best thing would be, if you want to really implement what you're learning, is to automate things at your work. That is the best thing. And wherever you need my help, ask. Nothing better than implementing at your workplace. That's the best playground to learn. And
Nishani, you will be uploading those exercises also, which are yeah, assignments, earlier assignments
exercise of slide and solution.
for NF.
Yes, I'll upload that.
Thank you.
All right. So that's it for today.
Yeah, have a nice day.
Thank you, you too. I have a report that take 25 minutes to finish. So Gunjan, typically what you also might have to think is whatever logic that you have applied on that particular report, if there is any other faster way of doing it, then you can make it faster. But other than that, so if you tell me that, okay, this is the process that we have to follow, and this is the logic I've applied, probably we can brainstorm on if there is a better logic. Like one of the projects, in fact, the project that I showed you, in which I had to delete the codes. So first what I was doing, there are about 200 codes. First, what I was doing, I was picking one code, auto filtering, getting it, deleting it, and doing it one by one. Lot of issues, and it was very time consuming. Then suddenly struck me, why am I not using advanced filtering? The code that I want to delete is already a column. So I used advanced filtering. It reduced the speed, improved the speed quite a bit, and the logic was also better. The output was better. So you might want to think in that way also. If you want, we can brainstorm once on what you are following as a logic and if there is a better way.
Oh, actually, Shani, I've tried with the both looping and applying the with statements, and it is still taking some time to calculate all the values, all the
And
formulas.
how much?
Each sheet.
How much? Like how much of the data, or how much is the?
They are 58 sheets.
58 sheets.
Yes.
It will take time.
Yes, that's why I
It
was
will
asking
take
about
time.
threading something, since VBA does not have native multi-threading option
No.
like C++ or Java. Yeah.
58 sheets will take that much time. Then it makes sense. See, in VBA, Gunjan, you are already experienced. Just to let others know that right now what was happening, when you click, you get output. That typically doesn't have an actual project. It takes good 5-10 minutes to run, and at the same time it keeps on showing on the top processing, not responding in fact. So you have to have patience to see if it's going to work or not. So something like what Gunjan is doing on 58 sheet, I'll do a dry run on 3 sheet and see if my work is running. If it's yes, then I put it on the 58 sheet and then I see, okay, how much time it's consuming. But normal projects do take time.
Yes, actually, I was able to bring down the time by 5 minutes only. It was earlier taking 30 minutes.
These are all important. A lot of times people feel, blink of the eye program should run and give me answer. It never happens. All projects takes nice amount of time. So that's why I was asking how many rows and how many. State sheet will definitely take time. 25 is good, efficient. Okay, so that's it. I'll upload my set of work and you do your share of reading. And tomorrow, first we'll start with form controls. That is easier for everyone to understand. Next 2 classes are little, charts are not going to be too difficult. Outlook, you might find little difficulty. So I'll save that for the last class. So we'll work with form controls, which everyone needs to know, everyone needs to implement at work. And then we'll work with charts in VBA. Third class, the Outlook part. That's it. And in between, if you think of any questions, do let me know. If any problem from work, you want to discuss, brainstorm with me the logical part, not doing the code with for you, but discussing the logical part, then I can do that with you also.
Sure,
Okay.
Ishani. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Take
Thank
care
you.
then. You have a good day.